Case summary. Karnataka Power Transmission Corporation Limited v. Deepak Cables, India, Limited, 2014. This landmark case, decided by the Supreme Court of India, delves into critical issues surrounding arbitration law, contract interpretation, and judicial intervention. It serves as a pivotal reference for arbitration experts by addressing the enforceability of arbitration clauses under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, 1996, and reinforcing the pro-arbitration stance of Indian courts. The ruling underscores the sanctity of arbitration agreements, even in the presence of procedural anomalies, while simultaneously highlighting the limitations of judicial interference. Parties involved. The dispute arose between Karnataka Power Transmission Corporation Limited, KPTCL, a state utility managing power transmission in Karnataka, and Deepak Cables, India, Limited, DCIL, a private contractor hired for power transmission-related work. Contractual dispute. The parties entered into a contract to execute work linked to power transmission. However, disputes emerged over issues regarding performance and payment obligations, prompting disagreements and eventually resort to arbitration, as stipulated in their contract. Arbitration agreement. The contract included an arbitration clause, intended to resolve disputes amicably through arbitration. Questions arose, however, on whether the arbitration process complied with the provisions of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, 1996. Specific challenges included the validity of the arbitrator's appointment and the scope of issues that could be decided through arbitration. To engage arbitration experts further, this case sheds light on three critical legal issues shaping dispute resolution. Applicability of the arbitration clause. A central question was whether the arbitration clause in the agreement could be enforced, given alleged procedural irregularities in initiating arbitration. Scope of arbitrator's jurisdiction. The court had to determine the extent of issues that could be resolved under the arbitration clause and whether these fell within the agreed terms of the contract. Judicial intervention. The case tested the boundaries of court involvement under Sections 5 and 11 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act. The question centered on the permissible scope of judicial intervention in arbitration matters. Arbitration clause enforceability. The court upheld the validity of the arbitration agreement, reinforcing the fundamental principle of party autonomy. It emphasized that procedural lapses during arbitration initiation do not render the agreement invalid unless they address core deficiencies undermining its viability. Role of the arbitrator. The arbitrator was deemed competent to resolve disputes expressly governed by the arbitration clause, provided such disputes did not exceed the agreement's scope. Judicial intervention. Reaffirming a pro-arbitration stance, the court ruled that judicial intervention should be minimal. Section 5 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act mandates courts to facilitate arbitration proceedings unless substantial violations of the law or contractual clauses exist. Party autonomy in arbitration. The decision reinforces that arbitration agreements are binding, barring situations where they are explicitly invalid or unenforceable. Streamlined judicial role. Courts must respect the autonomy of arbitration proceedings and only intervene to ensure procedural fairness, as outlined by law. Expansive interpretation of arbitration clauses. Ambiguities in arbitration clauses should be interpreted inclusively, fostering dispute resolution rather than creating roadblocks. This judgment is a beacon for arbitration experts advocating efficiency, autonomy, and fairness in arbitration. By balancing robust party autonomy with procedural safeguards, the ruling cements India's judiciary as an enabler of alternative dispute resolution. A vital development in aligning practice with international standards of arbitration advocacy.